You know you should enjoy Christian music, but you just don't. Today I'm going to talk about how you can learn to love Christian music again. Thanks for joining me on Amazingly Deep Thoughts, where I teach teens and young women to change their own lives and find peace through biblical living. I admit it, there are times when I get to church and I've had a really busy day, and all I can think about is the things that went on that day, and I'll find myself talking to my husband saying, well, did we do this and did we do that, and what time are we going to do this, in the middle of singing. And it's at that point I realize, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. I'm not even focusing on these words. I'm not focusing on the Lord. And so I want to talk to you about that element of how our everyday life affects Christian music and its effect on our heart. I want you to imagine yourself that you are like a sponge. And the Bible says that, you know, a full soul loatheth in honeycomb, but to a hungry soul, even every bitter thing is sweet. That might not be the exact phrase, but that's the idea, is that when we are full, we don't want anything more. And so as you look at your life, what are you filling up with? The first thing that we could fill ourselves with is social media. I know that when I wake up in the morning, I check my social media, I upload the Amazingly Deep Thought on Instagram, I go over and I check Facebook to see if there are any new notifications, and that starts to fill my mind. What if somebody started a conversation with me through social media, and then that is something that fills my mind throughout the day. Another thing we fill our life with is entertainment, whether that entertainment comes from books or movies or video games or your tablet. Those are things that take our time, and we actually invest in them. I know that when I was in college, I loved Christian romance novels, and so I would read them and devour them, and they would make me feel so good, and I would think about love and maybe someday meeting my Mr. Right. And that is what would fill up my mind. And so I want you to think about your life. Maybe it's recreation or sports, or maybe it's your friendships or a relationship that you're thinking about. What is it that has your heart and your mind? Those things that I just mentioned fill us up. And it's like a sponge that gets overflowed, and you pick it up and it's sopping and all the water's dripping out of it, because we actually haven't given anything yet. All we've done is absorb. And what I want to share with you is why this affects Christian music. And it's because we don't feel like we need it. There's no yearning within us to be encouraged. And that's because we tend to have a self-centered life. What if instead of spending the whole day thinking, I can't wait until I get my school done so that I can go, and it's usually entertainment or social media or talking to our friends, but what if instead of that you said, all right, now I'm going to give to others? Because a life of service and giving to God, giving God our time, doing our devotions and reading our Bible, studying our Bible, praying and giving to Him intercessory prayer for other people, for our nation, for the peace of Israel. That is a thing that we give of ourselves. And what happens, it's kind of like you squeeze the sponge a little bit and it gets a little less full. And then as you go to hand out a tract to somebody, or you tell somebody the gospel, or you stand up for what you know is right, that takes an element of strength and courage, and it takes something out of it. So it's like you squeeze that a little bit more. Or maybe you find that you're in a conflict with somebody, and God impresses upon your heart to submit yourself to one another in love and esteem others better than yourself. And you say, okay, I'm not going to choose what I want in this situation. I'm just going to give it to them, because charity seeketh not its own. And so I'm going to give for them, and that will cause me to have a lack. And you know what? That squeezes a little bit more out of the sponge. And as you progress in a life of serving God and esteeming others better for yourself, you might find yourself in a ministry where you are fulfilling the Great Commission and you are teaching others in some way, a ministry outside of your home, within your church. And so you're studying so that you can teach others, or you're writing a blog, or you have an Instagram page where you are encouraging other people also. And again, you're giving of yourself, and you have to seek the Lord for that wisdom and that discernment. And you have found that by the time you get to church, you just feel wrung dry. You have nothing left to give. And then you open up the hymn book and you hear, "What a friend we have in Jesus." Or they open up and you start singing, "It will be worth it all when we see Jesus. Life's trials will seem so small when we see Christ." Then the words mean something. And when you realize how weak you are and how much you need the Lord, those words really speak to your heart. But that is just one element of Christian music. We often try to look at music and think, what can I get out of this? How is this ministering to my heart? How does this make me feel? And in some cases, music is uplifting and encouraging. Sometimes it exhorts us or chastises us. And another time is when we just put the flesh down and we say, I'm not even going to think about the things that are going on in my life. Instead, I'm just purposefully going to look at these words and how they praise and worship the name of God. I know that music in and of itself, without any lyrics, can speak to your soul. Music is a language of the soul, and a musician can master the emotional elements. They can come in soft when they want it to be heartfelt, and they can go big when they want it to be militant and majestic. And then they can do it fast and exciting when they want to just lift your spirits and make you feel happy. You don't need lyrics to feel, but you do need lyrics to worship the Lord. And in that element, I want to encourage you not to rely upon emotionalism or music that just makes you feel as you get caught up in the rhythm and the repetition and those worldly beats of rock and roll. You don't need that. All that is emotionalism. Music is beautiful and can help minister to the words that are being sung. But it is up to you to read those words and focus on them and meditate on them and sing and give glory to God for who He is, what He has done, and that all by itself will fill and feed your spirit. And you will find that as you live a life that focuses on Jesus first, and then others, and giving of yourself for others, and then you put yourself last, you will find not only how much more full your life is, and how much more full of meaning and purpose as you live to serve God, but you will find that the words of the Christian music, I can trust Him, I can trust Him, those words will inevitably work their way into your heart as you find courage and encouragement from those words. But I'm telling you, if you are all about you, what am I getting from this music? What am I getting from this church? What am I getting from the message? What am I getting from my life? What is God doing for me? And why do I have to do all this work? Why is it that I don't get to have fun? And as soon as I have a chance, I'm going to go fill my mind with. And you become the most self-centered, full sponge, so full and so dripping that you don't even realize that you are filled with things of no substance. There's one last element of this picture that I want to share with you, and that is the fact that we have tastes. And so at times you have to look and say, have I been feasting on junk food? Do I only listen to Disney music? And I just want to let you know there's a lot of pop music in Disney music, so just because it says Disney doesn't mean that it's okay. You just got to think about that and have a little bit of discernment. But am I only listening to soundtracks? You know, do I take time to listen to the Christian music and listen to the words of the Christian music? Have you just developed a taste for junk food, except for it's the junk food of music? Because any person who is learning how to transition from a diet of junk food and processed foods to one of whole foods and vegetables and fruits, they'll tell you, I don't like vegetables, except for maybe carrots. But they don't like it because they have gotten so used to junk that they have no taste for what is good for them. And so you have to make a choice and say, just like I know vegetables and whole grains and meats are good for me, and I'm going to choose to eat them until I develop a taste for them. You may find that you have to do that with music and say, I'm just going to put aside that junk food music, that neutral music, and I'm going to fill myself with godly music and really focus on it and meditate on it. And then you will find very often, as people who switch their diets to whole foods, that when you go back, it might taste good, but it doesn't taste as good as you thought it did. And so you go back to what is good. So those are my major points. What are you filling your mind with? Are you giving of yourselves to squeeze out what has filled you so that you have a need and a desire for that encouragement that comes through the songs and the hymns and the spiritual songs? Are you so me-focused that you aren't taking time to worship God through the words and praise Him just solely for who He is? And are you filled with so much junk food music that you've lost your taste for good music solely because you haven't tried to have a taste for godly music? And that's it. I hope this is a blessing. If you haven't subscribed, please do, so that you can learn how biblical living works, and you'll have a better life for it.